When someone walks into a room and says, "Good luck fixing me," they might think it's witty, but what they're really doing is throwing up a wall. That wall is built with sarcasm, defensiveness, and pain. It's easy to pretend like nothing bothers you, but what that really shows is fear. You've learned that it's safer to push people away with an attitude than to let them close enough to see you're hurting. But masking pain with arrogance doesn't heal it. It delays the healing and keeps the pain hidden behind a tough exterior that isolates you from help. Pain that is never faced will eventually explode in other areas of your life. You didn't just become this way overnight. Somewhere along the line, there were moments that hurt you so deeply, you stopped trusting the process of healing. You started protecting yourself by pretending not to care. But pretending doesn't erase what you feel deep inside. When pain is left unchecked, it turns into anger, resentment, and even self-destruction. If you never face it, it will control you in ways you won't even see until it's too late. There is no such thing as being too broken to be helped. That's a lie you've told yourself because it's easier to believe that than to risk trying and failing. But the truth is, you have to be willing to take that first step. Telling yourself that you're unfixable gives you an excuse to stay where you are. The mind listens to what you feed it. Keep feeding it defeat and despair, and it will respond with sabotage. Change starts the moment you stop declaring your limitations and start exploring your possibilities. You can't grow in the same environment that keeps you stuck. If everything around you is toxic, your habits, your circle, your mindset, healing won't stand a chance. Sometimes you've got to break away from the dysfunction you've normalized just to see what healthy even looks like. It's not about blaming the world. It's about choosing better for yourself even when it's uncomfortable. Real change often starts with hard, scary decisions. You're not at the end of your story just because you're in a dark chapter. Every breakthrough is born from a breakdown. The pain you're feeling right now is real, but it's not permanent. You may feel stuck, but what if you're just pause, waiting for the right moment to take control back? The most important thing is that you stop believing your worst day defines who you are. You are not your pain. You are your potential. The turning point always begins with accountability. You can point fingers for a lifetime, but nothing will change until you take a hard look in the mirror. You have to ask yourself, what choices am I making that are keeping me in this place? No one's saying it's all your fault. But your healing is your responsibility. Staying miserable is a choice, just like working toward better is. Neither path is easy, but only one gives you hope on the other side. Love from others can support you, but it won't save you. No one else can crawl into your skin and do the work for you. That's your job. You are not what happened to you. You are not your worst mistake. You are who you choose to become starting today, and healing, it doesn't come from comfort. It comes from honesty, from deciding you've had enough of the pain, and from fighting, truly fighting for your life. No one's coming to fix you, and that's not a death sentence. That's your invitation to finally become who you were meant to be. Pain that goes unacknowledged doesn't just fade away. It burrows deeper, reshaping how you see yourself and how you move through the world. Ignoring it doesn't heal it. It empowers it. That silent suffering becomes the lens through which you interpret everything, relationships, opportunities, even yourself. Worth. You might think you're managing just fine, but what you're really doing is suppressing a storm that's slowly leaking into every corner of your life. The pain you refuse to deal with shows up in the way you isolate, the way you lash out, or the way you sabotage anything good that comes your way. Often, the people who claim they're unbothered are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens. They build thick emotional walls because letting others in feels like a risk they can't afford to take. They learn to minimize what hurt them or make a joke out of it. But underneath that humor is a deep fear of vulnerability, a fear that if someone really saw the raw, hurting version of them, they'd reject it. So instead of confronting the wound, they try to outrun it, but pain is persistent. It always finds a way to resurface. When pain remains unspoken, it begins to manifest in behavior. It becomes the reason someone drinks too much, pushes people away, or gives up on dreams. It doesn't announce itself with clarity. It hides behind excuses, behind anger, behind control. Before long, it becomes part of a person's identity. They stop seeing a future because they're too weighed down by the past, and the longer pain stays in the dark, the more damage it does. It convinces you that you're beyond help and not worth healing. People often try to manage this pain with distractions, work, substances, toxic relationships, or anything that numbs the ache. But the relief is temporary. It's a cycle that repeats over and over, leaving them emptier each time. And it doesn't just affect the person carrying the pain. It affects everyone around them. Loved ones get caught in the fallout. Children grow up with broken examples. Partners get blamed for things they didn't cause. And the pain spreads like a ripple, echoing far beyond its original source. Acknowledging pain doesn't make you weak. It makes you courageous. It's the first real step toward breaking the cycle. You can't heal what you won't admit is broken. And while facing that pain might be terrifying, it's far less damaging than living with the quiet destruction it causes over time. People think healing is all about feeling better, but it's really about feeling everything you tried to avoid, so it can finally lose its power over you. The fear of opening old wounds keeps many people stuck, but the truth is, those wounds are already bleeding. They're just hidden. Pretending they aren't there doesn't mean they've healed. It means they're festering. When you allow yourself to confront the pain head on, it hurts. No question, but that pain has a purpose now. It's not just destruction. It becomes the start of rebuilding. And through that process, you start to reconnect with the parts of yourself that you thought were lost. There's no shortcut around pain. You either deal with it or let it deal with you. You either own your healing or surrender to your hurt. Every time you choose to stay silent about what broke you, you give it permission to continue breaking you. But when you choose to speak, to face it, to work through it, you take back your power, and that's when the real transformation begins. Not in denial, not in anger, but in the quiet, difficult decision to finally stop running. Being unfixable is something many people start to believe when life feels like it's closing in. It becomes a label, worn like armor, not because it's true, but because it feels safer to stop hoping than to be disappointed again. Declaring yourself unfixable can feel like a form of protection, a way to avoid facing the hard work of change. But saying I can't be helped is not a fact. It's a decision. It's a mindset, and like any mindset, it can be rewritten if you're willing to challenge it. When you tell yourself you can't be fixed, you stop looking for solutions, you stop trying, you start building a case for your own failure. You point to every bad experience, every broken relationship, every moment of weakness as proof that there's no point in continuing. But what you're doing is reinforcing a story that keeps you stuck. You aren't beyond help. You're exhausted, afraid, and unsure of how to start. That's not the same as being broken beyond repair. No person is too damaged to grow. No past is too messy to learn from. What gets in the way isn't what happened. It's the refusal to believe there's a different future ahead. When you keep repeating the same pain-filled script, it eventually becomes your reality. Your brain learns it, your heart accepts it, and your actions reflect it. But all of that can change. The first shift doesn't come from someone fixing you. It comes from you choosing to believe that change is even possible. It's easy to say, "This is just how I am," but that sentence is often used to hide behind trauma or past disappointments. Growth is uncomfortable. It challenges the very identity you've built around your pain. But just because something has been true for a long time doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Patterns can be broken. Choices can be unlearned. What's been familiar doesn't have to be final. You can't move forward while clinging to the belief that you're stuck. You may not have chosen what happened to you, but you do get to choose what happens next. Every time you tell yourself that you're unfixable, you're closing the door on new beginnings. It's not that healing isn't available. It's that the belief you don't deserve it keeps you from reaching for it. That belief is the real barrier, not your past. Being open to change doesn't require perfection. It doesn't mean you have all the answers or even that you feel ready. It just means you're willing to let go of the idea that your worst days define your worth. It means deciding, even just a little, that you're tired of being tired, that you want something different, and that small decision can open the door to a completely different path, one built not on brokenness but on strength. You're not unfixable, you're human, you've been hurt, confused, and stuck, but you're still here, and that means something. The belief that you can't be helped is not a truth, it's a wall. And the moment you decide to lower that wall, even by an inch, is the moment you start building something new. You don't need someone to come fix you. You just need to believe that you're worth the effort it takes to fix yourself. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. That's not just a saying. It's a truth that people overlook far too often. When you're surrounded by the same habits, people, patterns, and energy that caused your damage, expecting change is unrealistic. It's like trying to breathe fresh air in a room filled with smoke. You might have good intentions and you may be ready to heal, but the environment you're in is constantly pulling you back into survival mode instead of allowing you to grow. Sometimes the people around you don't want to see you change because your dysfunction fits their comfort zone. They're used to you being predictable, emotionally reactive, or always needing them. When you start to heal, you disrupt that dynamic, and suddenly you become a threat to their control or their version of normal. So instead of supporting your growth, they might guilt you, minimize your progress, or try to pull you back. And if you're not careful, you'll start doubting yourself and abandon your healing just to keep the peace. Your environment isn't just about physical space. It's also about the energy you surround yourself with. If your home, your relationships, or your routines are filled with tension, negativity, or emotional triggers, it becomes nearly impossible to find peace. Healing needs stillness. It needs safety. It needs room to breathe. If your daily life is filled with chaos, emotional manipulation, or reminders of past trauma, you're constantly reopening the very wounds you're trying to close. Change doesn't always require an immediate escape, but it does demand awareness. You have to start recognizing which environments make you shrink and which ones help you expand. That might mean stepping back from certain friendships. It might mean turning down invitations that compromise your growth. It might mean setting boundaries in places where none ever existed before, and yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Growth always does. But the discomfort of change is far more valuable than the pain of staying stuck. One of the hardest decisions you'll make during healing is choosing to walk away from what you've outgrown. You might love people deeply, but love alone doesn't create safety. Loyalty to pain isn't a virtue, it's a trap. You don't owe your past a permanent seat in your future, and sometimes the greatest act of self-love is choosing yourself, even if that means disappointing people who are comfortable with a broken version of you. Healing demands new soil. Just like a plant can't grow in dry, toxic dirt, you can't thrive in a space that drains you emotionally or mentally. If you want real transformation, you have to intentionally build a space that supports it. That includes your physical environment, but also your mindset, your circle, your goals, and your boundaries. You need room to reset, space to reflect, and enough quiet to finally hear your own thoughts instead of the noise of others. You can't fully heal while still entertaining what hurt you. The patterns, people, and places that broke you cannot be part of your recovery. Healing is about choosing a new direction, one that prioritizes your peace over your past. It's about surrounding yourself with what nurtures your growth, not what reminds you of your pain. And the moment you start doing that, you don't just begin to heal, you begin to live. Your story isn't over just because you're in a dark chapter. Everyone goes through moments that feel unbearable, seasons that feel endless, and struggles that seem too overwhelming to ever escape. But just because you're stuck right now doesn't mean you're finished. Life doesn't end in the middle of pain, it continues, and so can you. The dark moments are part of the journey, not the whole story. They may change you, but they don't get to define you. You are allowed to be more than what hurt you. It's easy to believe that your worst day speaks for your entire life. When you're overwhelmed, it feels like this is how it will always be. You start to see everything through the lens of your suffering, and hope gets buried under fear, disappointment, and exhaustion. But pain, as loud as it is, doesn't get the final word. It's only a part of the process. Just like any powerful story, the middle is messy and confusing, but that doesn't mean it's meaningless. You're still here. And as long as you are, there's time for change. You don't need to have all the answers to keep moving. Sometimes progress looks like standing up one more time after falling. Sometimes it's just breathing through the chaos until the next moment arrives. Healing doesn't always show up in bold, dramatic ways. Often it's quiet, slow, and almost invisible. But it's still real, it still counts. You're not required to be perfect. You're only required to keep going, even if you have to crawl. The idea that your story must always be full of triumph and positivity is a lie. Real growth includes setbacks. Real life includes struggle. You don't need to hide the hard parts of your journey to be worthy of love or respect. Those parts make you human. They make you relatable. And when you come out the other side, they'll make you stronger. The hard chapters don't erase the good ones, they deepen them, they give your success meaning. A dark chapter is not a dead end, it's a turning point. It's the place where something begins to shift inside you, even if no one else can see it. It's where you start asking better questions, feeling emotions you buried, and making choices that serve the person you're becoming. Not the one you used to be. You may not even notice that change is happening until one day the pain feels lighter and the future doesn't feel so far away. That's how healing sneaks in. Sometimes it's not about fixing everything at once. It's about finding one thing to hold on to, a reason, a memory, a dream, and letting that be enough for today. You're not weak for struggling. You're not lost because you're hurting. You're just in a hard moment, and moments pass. This one will too. It may not feel like it now, but you won't always feel this heavy. Even the darkest nights eventually break into light. So if you're in the middle of your pain, remember this. You're still writing your story. This isn't the ending. It's just a difficult scene. Keep turning the pages. Keep showing up. Even if you can't see the resolution yet, it's being built with every step you take. One day, you'll look back and see this chapter not as your downfall, but as the moment your real strength started to surface. And that's worth holding on for. Sometimes life has a way of pulling you into a place so dark and quiet that you begin to believe you're the only one who's ever been there. You look around and nothing feels familiar anymore. What used to bring you joy now feels like a memory, and the future seems like a fog you can't walk through. But what you have to remember is that even in the darkest chapter of your story, the book hasn't closed. The page hasn't stopped turning. This is a part of your journey, not the conclusion of it. It's easy to get lost in the silence of suffering. Pain makes everything louder. Your doubts, your fears, the voice in your head telling you this will never get better. You start believing the lie that your struggle defines you, but pain is only one piece of your life. It's not your identity. You are not your trauma. You are not your failures. You are someone who's been tested by life and is still here. That alone makes you stronger than you think. You don't have to pretend everything's fine. Healing isn't about denial, it's about honesty. It's admitting that this hurts, that you don't have all the answers, that you're scared and tired, and sometimes you don't want to keep trying. That truth doesn't make you weak. It makes you real, and real people go through real things. There's nothing shameful about being in a dark place. The shame would be in pretending it doesn't exist when it clearly does. Progress doesn't always look like moving forward. Sometimes progress is simply not going backward. Some days it's getting out of bed. Some days it's holding back tears until you're alone. Some days it's showing up to life even though you'd rather disappear. That's what strength looks like when you're in survival mode, and those moments, however small, matter more than you realize. They're proof you haven't given up. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to feel stuck without being a failure. You are allowed to want more, even if you don't know how to get there. This chapter may be filled with confusion, heartbreak, or silence, but it is not the end. The story doesn't end when it gets hard. It ends when you decide to stop turning pages, and even if you have to do it slowly, painfully, or with trembling hands, you owe it to yourself to keep reading. Every story worth telling has conflict, struggle, and redemption. Without the low points, the highs wouldn't mean anything. The part of you that's tired, broken, or afraid, it won't always feel this way. There will come a time when you look back and realize this moment was shaping you in ways you couldn't see. The pain you're carrying today could be the strength you lean on tomorrow. You don't have to understand that now. You just have to trust that something better is possible. So breathe, cry if you need to, sit in the darkness for a while, but don't make a home there. Rest, but don't quit. Let this chapter teach you something. Let it soften you, not harden you. Let it remind you that you are still here, and that matters more than you know. Your story isn't over. You're just in the middle, and the middle is always the messiest, but it's also where the transformation happens. Keep going. You're not finished yet. People can care about you deeply and still not be able to heal what you haven't faced within yourself. Love from others can be comforting, but it's not a cure for the wounds you've never acknowledged. Many people go through life hoping that someone else's presence will fill the emptiness they feel inside, but no amount of affection, attention, or reassurance can replace the work only you can do. Healing begins when you stop outsourcing your peace to other people and start building it from within. There's a painful truth most avoid. People can't save you from yourself. You might want someone to come along and love you so deeply that all your broken pieces fuse back together, but healing doesn't happen that way. Real transformation happens when you stop running from the parts of yourself you don't like and start facing them, even if it's uncomfortable. The love you receive from others can inspire you to begin that process, but it can't complete it for you. When you rely on others to fix you, you place a burden on them that they were never built to carry. You expect them to constantly prove their love, to fill every void, to ease every fear. And when they fail to do that, it feels like rejection. But what's really happening is that your unmet need for self healing is spilling into the relationship. You can't fully receive someone else's love if you don't believe you're worthy of it to begin with. People can walk beside you, support you, and encourage you, but they cannot do your emotional labor for you. They can hold space for your tears, but they cannot dry them if you won't face the reasons they keep falling. No matter how deeply someone loves you, that love cannot rewrite your past, change your patterns, or silence the voice in your head that says you're not enough. That's your work. That's your responsibility. It's a hard thing to accept, that no one is coming to rescue you from your pain, but there's freedom in that truth too, because once you stop waiting for someone else to fix you, you realize the power to change has always been in your hands. You begin to show up for yourself in ways you used to expect from others. You begin to speak kindly to yourself, make choices that reflect your worth, and build a foundation of peace that doesn't collapse when someone leaves. Loving yourself doesn't mean you don't need anyone. It means you no longer need others to constantly validate your existence. It means you can enjoy connection without clinging, receive love without dependency, and offer love without fear. And the stronger your relationship with yourself becomes, the more your relationships with others will improve, because they'll be built on choice, not desperation. The truth is, people can love you with everything they have, and it still won't be enough if you haven't learned to love yourself. You have to be willing to sit with your pain, to understand it, to forgive yourself for what you didn't know then. You have to take ownership of your healing. Only then can the love you receive from others truly feel like a gift instead of a lifeline. You don't need to be fixed. You need to come home to yourself. That's where real love begins. You are more than what's been done to you. That's a truth that's easy to forget when your past is loud and your pain feels permanent. Sometimes the things that happen to you are so overwhelming, so faltering, that they begin to shape how you see yourself. You start to believe you are the broken pieces left behind, but you are not the damage. You are not the betrayal. You are not the pain someone else caused. You are the person who survived it, and that makes you powerful even when you don't feel it. Pain has a way of disguising itself as identity. It sneaks in and makes you think the worst thing that happened to you is the most important thing about you. But your life is not a collection of what other people have done. It's not a permanent reaction to past harm. What happened may have influenced your story, but it doesn't get to write the ending. You do. Your choices, your growth, your healing. That's what gets to define you from here on out. It's okay to acknowledge the hurt. Denial doesn't heal anything. You don't have to pretend everything is fine, and you don't need to rush your process. But while you're being honest about the pain, also be honest about your strength. Be honest about the fact that you're still here. That you made it through things that could have broken you permanently. That you've kept going despite the weight you carry. There's power in simply surviving. There's honor in still standing. Your worth is not measured by what you've endured. It's measured by the courage it takes to keep showing up, to keep rebuilding, to keep believing there's more for you. You weren't created just to suffer. You have dreams, talents, and a purpose that no trauma can take from you. The people who hurt you don't get to define your destiny. That's your job, and it begins the moment you decide you're ready to take your power back. Letting go of what happened doesn't mean you forget. It means you stop letting it rule you. It means you stop organizing your identity around your wounds. You can remember what happened without reliving it every day. You can carry the lessons without carrying the weight. Healing is about reclaiming your narrative, not erasing it, but rewriting it from a place of strength rather than fear. The world may try to tell you who you are based on your scars, but you don't have to accept that story. You get to tell a new one where the pain doesn't win, one where you rise, not because you were never hurt, but because you refuse to stay broken. You get to be more than the trauma. You get to be joy, peace, laughter, love, purpose, growth. Those are just as much a part of your truth, if not more. So take a deep breath and remind yourself that you are not what was done to you. You are who you are becoming every day you choose to heal, every day you choose to show up, and every day you refuse to be defined by the worst parts of your past. There's a future waiting for you that has nothing to do with the pain you've survived and everything to do with the strength you've found. That's who you are. That's what you're becoming. Healing doesn't begin with comfort. It begins with brutal honesty. The truth is, you can't change what you refuse to confront. You can surround yourself with all the affirmations, all the positive quotes, and all the comforting distractions. But if you're not willing to face the parts of yourself that are still bleeding, the parts you keep avoiding, the healing will always be surface level. Real transformation demands that you stop lying to yourself about what hurts and why. We live in a world that often encourages numbness disguised as self-care. Binging TV, scrolling endlessly, and overworking yourself aren't healing, they're hiding. Distractions might make the pain quieter for a moment, but they won't remove it. Eventually, the silence catches up to you, and when it does, you either confront the truth or keep running in circles. And the longer you run, the more damage you do to yourself and the people around you. Facing the truth isn't easy. It requires courage to look in the mirror and admit you're not okay. It takes strength to say, I've been pretending, I've been avoiding, I've been lying to myself. But there's no growth without that moment of reckoning. That's where the real work begins. It's not about shaming yourself for what's broken. It's about acknowledging that healing won't happen until you start being real about where it hurts. Healing also demands that you question your patterns. Why do you keep choosing people who don't value you? Why do you react the same way in every conflict? Why do you sabotage things when they're finally going well? These are hard questions, but they're necessary. If you keep responding from a place of unhealed wounds, you'll keep creating the same pain in different situations. And until you get honest about those patterns, they'll keep repeating. Brutal honesty also means taking responsibility for your part. Not everything that happened to you is your fault, but healing becomes your responsibility. It means letting go of blame long enough to ask, what can I do differently? Victimhood may feel justified, but it also keeps you stuck. Owning your healing doesn't mean excusing what hurt you. It means refusing to let it control you any longer. Comfort is seductive. It tells you to settle, to keep things the way they are, to avoid the discomfort of growth. But comfort never leads to freedom. Growth feels like grief sometimes. It feels like chaos before clarity. You might lose people, shift identities, walk away from everything familiar, but in the end, what you gain is worth it. You gain peace that isn't dependent on denial. You gain clarity that doesn't need validation. You gain yourself. So if you're ready to heal, don't reach for what feels good. Reach for what's true. Ask the hard questions. Sit with the discomfort. Stop waiting for someone else to do the work for you. This is your life. This is your pain. This is your healing, and it begins the moment you decide you're done pretending, because the truth might hurt, but it will set you free.